What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, J.A., we made a little noise last week with that whole Doug Gottlieb thing. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for the Phoenix basketball program. I think Sonny did a nice job of resurrecting it and injecting it with, the juice. He brought the juice. And I think Doug splashes that a little bit more even. And I think people will be watching, if not the program itself, to see what happens, to see how Doug handles that, try to do a radio show, try to do a D1 program, his first job. So it comes with some name recognition, a big Q rating, right? I think we've gone over that. People that don't know, Q rating is strictly if you recognize somebody's name. It does not mean if you like them or do not like them. If you had Joe Biden and Donald Trump, their Q ratings would both be off the charts. Yeah. It has nothing to do with likability or hate. It's just, do you recognize that name? And Doug comes with a big Q rating. And like I said, it'll get people to watch. And hopefully that brings people into the seats. And then as a guy who's, sort of marginally invested in the program because it's my hometown and it's a program I watched and grew up on, then hopefully that means people come and watch the team. So there's a lot there. But that's what you need. You need some stuff there. So good for him.
A lot of people over the years have been a coach or a player and also at a different time, a media personality. Our guest today on the Inside Wisconsin Show actually did that. He was a player and then he became a media personality. Doug Gottlieb, coach and media personality at the same time. I think that's what.
He might be the first guy ever to host his own coach's show. Host and star in his own coach. It'd be great.
So, Doug, how do you think we did this weekend? Well, Doug,
we got over here and he was talking in a tie or something. Yeah, I think that would be great. I have here's Doug awesome. Now have his own show. Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy joining the
I worked with a guy in Tulsa named Mark Whaley, who was a photographer, a great, very fine news photographer, but he was also a paramedic. We always used to joke that he once gave himself CPR, got great video of it, and it led to 10 o'clock news. And that's kind of how Doug would be. Here he is doing his own thing.
I hope he doesn't want to introduce himself or I'm out of a job.
No, you'll be fine.
Okay, we're good. Well, back to our guest today, right? So Bill Schroeder, not Bill Schroeder. We had him a few weeks ago or a few episodes ago. Bill Schroeder of Milwaukee Brewers broadcast fame, and he also played for the Brewers starting in '83, and I think he was there for 6 seasons. A lot of insight was provided by Doug Gottlieb, and I think we got a lot of really cool insight today from Bill Schroeder to share with you. J.A., what was your biggest takeaway before we jump in?
Well, I don't want to shortchange the episode and let everybody leave after the first 5 minutes. But the fact that the man said the team this year is good, that's what I needed to know. That I'm not going to be, I'm not expending all my energy for something that's going to go terribly wrong and they're going to have 70 wins. So it doesn't sound like that's the case. I don't know that they're 108 win ball club, but the fact that it appears I'm going to have an interesting summer that I will be able to follow into September is good news.
John and I have not been shy that we absolutely love Brewers above all else, and so today's convo is a good one. We hope you enjoy Bill Schroeder. Here we go on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Long time, not calling him old, but long time Brewers TV color commentator and former major leaguer with the Brewers. That's Bill Schroeder. Welcome to the show, Bill. Thanks for joining us.
Trevor, John, thank you very much. It's good to be here. I know that you had some friends in our TV booth. I know Jeff Levering wanted me to make sure that I got on with you guys. I haven't been trying to avoid you. It's just the way to go.
First off, let me just say, I'm one of these people there's no such thing as a former major leaguer. If you're a big leaguer, you're a big leaguer. It's like if you've been a president or if you've been a secretary in the Secretary of State, you keep that title to me. So I don't know what former big leaguer means, but that's
sorry.
But here, before I get into your major league career or your broadcast career, I just need to live in the moment. Is our team right now any good?
Yeah, we are.
We've got hints, but I need to know from the trained eye. Are they any good?
We are good. I mean, the Brewers are good. I mean, I say we like I have a lot to do about the outcome. But it's like it's like Brian Anderson always says that we have nothing to do, with the outcome, no matter what we say. I don't really believe that. I think there is a jinx involved in baseball. With the no hitters, and you say a guy has been making really good contact, and then he strikes out 3 times in a game, and those types of things. But the Brewers are good. They have a good mix of veteran guys. You got Adames, you've got Yelich, you've got Reese Hoskins, and I don't know if you really call William Contreras a veteran guy. It's his 3rd year. Might be the best hitter in the game right now. I mean, one of the best. I mean, he's been amazing, and the pitching has been good enough. I mean, they've been really impressive in that they've used 10 different starters already this year, and none of them have been used as openers, which is really unusual. So the Brewers have been without their closer all season long, Devin Williams. He's expected back sometime after the All-Star break, maybe late July. But they've had a lot of injuries like every team has, and right now they're sitting in first place. So pretty good.
So what is it about this team? You mentioned the guys that everybody knows, but there's a lot of guys on this current roster that are just joining us, or we barely know, or they're 19 years old. I mean, this is a different club in comparison to what it was in the past.
A lot of young guys, a lot of guys making major league debuts. We've got Jackson Churio, who got off to a pretty good start. I think, he's going to be having to make some adjustments. The league and the major leagues, they make adjustments. They learn some of your weaknesses. And I tell you, the kid has got an incredible upside. And I think that's why, he's been getting some time off. He's been, I think, Contreras and Adames have been taking him under their wing, and working with him, before the games. Sal Frelick has got a lot of abilities. Blake Perkins, come up with some big hits. And Garrett Mitchell still hasn't played. I mean, he broke his finger in spring training. They're still waiting for him to, get his health going. It's been unfortunate for Garrett in that he's got such amazing ability, speed, and he makes good contact, and a great outfielder, and just can't stay healthy. Last year, he missed the year with a shoulder problem, and this year he starts out the year with a broken finger. But a good mix of young guys, and you sprinkle in some veteran guys, and so far the Brewers have been able to get it done. And I think two of the guys that haven't been getting enough credit, Pat Murphy, I think, our new manager. Everybody knows that whole story with Craig Counsell going to Chicago with the Cubs. But I think Murph has had a major influence and a really good rapport with these guys. I mean, he can be friend. He can be tough on them. He can be honest with the media. I think they've been aggressive. I mean, they're stealing bases. They're hitting home runs. He's allowing these guys to play baseball and do it without having to, overanalyze everything they're doing. So I think he's been really good. And Chris Hook, the Brewers pitching coach, nobody talks about this guy. He's one of the best in the business. When you look at, some of the guys that have come to the Brewers over the course of the last 5 years since he's been there, I mean, marginal pitchers, guys that the Brewers picked up off scrap heap. I'm not going to mention any of those names. but, I mean, he works with them. He understands what they need to do to be successful. And, he's been fantastic. I mean, when you think about, 23 different pitchers, Mitch White, I think it was Mitch White. He just came over from San Francisco. 23rd different pitcher that the Brewers have used already. And here we are in the second week in May. So amazing that they're in first place.
Listen, if there are council questions, they're going to come from Trevor, because nobody likes bitter John Anderson on this thing. You mentioned the young guys when they come up. Since you played, give us a sense of what that final leap is from the minors when you get to the big leagues. When we had Owen on, he was like, he's like, you get to the big leagues and you find out everybody has a plan and knows how to get you out. And it's amazing. What's that jump like when you finally get to the show from where you were?
Well, first of all, I think, in my day, I mean, I came up, you had Molitor and Yount and, Simmons and and Sutton. And, when I walked into my first big league clubhouse in Texas, my first game, there was 5 future Hall of Famers in that clubhouse. And back in those days, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want anybody to know me. And I just, sitting, squeal away in the corner, not a whole lot of confidence. I knew these guys, from spring training a couple of years. But, now I think you have guys coming up. They're all coming up together. I mean, they played in the minor leagues together, short of guys, like Rhys Hoskins and, and Contreras from different organizations and Christian Yelich and things like that. But these guys are friends. I mean, they played together for years. And, I think they come up here with an amazing attitude, and they feel like they belong. And I think that has a lot. These veteran guys like Willie Adames have a lot to do with that. Arm around them and, helping along the way. But I think that the biggest difference for me from the minor leagues, AAA to the big leagues, is defense. I mean, defense is incredible in the major leagues. I mean, you look and see what some of these shortstops, second basemen are doing. You got Bryce Durang stealing base hits all the time. You don't see a lot of that, in the minor leagues. And you don't see, there's velocity down in the minor leagues, but you have velocity and command up here in the major leagues. And if you show the league that you have a weak spot or you have a hole in your swing, they will wear you out. So you're going to have to make, a lot of adjustments. And, swings that work in the minor leagues and AAA, a lot of times don't work here in the major leagues. And you're going to have to make adjustments. That's where hitting coaches, come in. And, Ozzie Timmons has been, doing a great job, and Connor Dawson, the other hitting coach. They've got a lot of They got a lot of work to do. Everybody's different. Every hitter's different. Every pitcher's different. And, these guys have been doing a really good job.
You talked about how Adames and Contreras are putting Churio under their wing. When you arrived in Milwaukee back in '83, who was it that put you under their wing?
Ted Simmons. I was lockered right next to Ted Simmons. And, Ted was fantastic. He was at the end of his career. He knew that his days were numbered, and, not so much the physical aspect of the game, hitting and catching. It was the mental, the things you have to think about, running counts and what pitches you throw to who and what situations. And he got into my head, and you learn all those things, the things that you have to, think about before the games, the things that, he gave me assignments in the off season. Talking about defensive setups and, all this kind of stuff and what to think about. So after games, I would sit in my locker after I was catching. I would do a game. He would run through. It was like he was catching. He ran through every inning of the game, and, hitters coming up, and, you had a 2-0 count with Cliff Johnson at the plate, and you threw him a slider. Why did you do that? What was your thinking there? And lo and behold, I better have an answer, because they take a lot of nonsense. He was a bench coach for the Brewers for a little bit, and I learned an awful lot, from Ted Simmons. The mental part of the game, the physical part of the game. That was my dad. He was tough on me as well. My dad was a stickler for the fundamentals and catching and things like that. When I signed up for Little League. Or Tiny League, they called it in New Jersey, 7 years, 7, 8, and 9-year-old. And we signed up at the firehouse, and there was a table there to sign up. And in the back, there was an old empty beer box back there with catcher's gear. And I told my dad, I don't have to wear that, do I? I don't want to catch. I mean, you're going to catch? He says, no, you don't have to catch. He made me catch. And he said that the quickest way, the one sure way that you're always going to be able to play on a team is if you can catch. And he was right. And he didn't know at that point if I was going to hit or not. But, hitting, and catching was a surefire way to advance pretty well. So he was smart in that regard, although I wasn't really much into it early on. But he was right about, being a catcher and getting that part of the game down.
So when you arrive in the big leagues, and obviously you've had success at every level, or they don't promote you to that.
Right.
How much baseball did you think And then you run into a guy like Simmons, and you got, holy crap, I have so much more to learn about baseball.
Yeah, right. I mean, just, everybody in the major league level has the ability. They have the skills. They have the tools. I mean, you might not be a 5-tool guy. You might not be able to run. You might not have the greatest arm, but there is something that you do on a consistent basis down in the minor leagues that warrants a call up. But you have to, think things through in the major league level, because the pitchers are doing that, catchers are doing that. If you're at the plate, you have to have a pretty good sense of what a guy's going to do to you. And, that's the biggest thing, the mental aspect of the game. A lot of guys never failed in the minor leagues. I was one of those guys. I really had good minor league statistics. I hit homers and had good batting averages for the most part. But you get to the big league, it is a different animal. And there's so much information. Even back then, I mean, organizations had a book on you, and they knew what to throw you, and they knew what you swung at with 2 strikes. Now it's even more ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing the information. You guys know the information that's available to these guys and coaches, and the way it's all scouted, and it's there's really nothing left to chance. It's all about executing. Guys in the major leagues know what to do. It's just a matter of being able to execute it. And if you're at the plate and a guy doesn't execute his slider, you had better not miss it, because you're only probably going to get one good hitting that at bat. And the great ones don't miss them. The guys that bounce back and forth between the and the big leagues, those are the guys that miss their pitch. And you always get one in every at bat. It might be the first pitch, it might be a full count pitch, but you better take advantage of a pitch that a pitcher is not able to execute on, or you don't have much of a chance.
To that point, you've seen a few baseball games in your day, and you played a few baseball games in your day. How much has the game, other than the analytic part, right, and the players, but the game has massively changed in the time that you've been involved in baseball? How do you compare what we witness today versus the way it was when you played?
Well, I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, the rule changes. I mean, I think that the rule changes are really good. I don't know if Mike Hargrove would be able to function in the clock era. They called him the human rain delay. Pitchers that would, walk around the mound and, take 30 seconds between pitches. I think guys have really adjusted to that, really well. The equipment that these guys are using is really incredible. The information that they have and the way organizations evaluate talent. A guy like me, I'm 65 years old. This is my 30th year doing TV. My job is so much different now than it was when I started, back in 1995. I mean, because of the information and the way organizations are looking or evaluating talent, it's not so much batting average, it's on base percentage, it's slugging percentage, it's WAR, it's all this kind of stuff, exit velocity, all those types of things. And, I'm a big fan of all the rule changes. I'm a big fan for sure of the pitch clock. I think it's good for fans. It's good for players. I mean, guys aren't out on the field as long. I mean, we had a long game yesterday against the Pirates, and it was 3:07. That was pretty much average for the Brewers, 3 years ago. And so I think that's been a good change. And I think that pitchers' velocity is unbelievable now. You had Ryan Helsley with the St. Louis Cardinals throwing a pitch against the Brewers on Sunday at 103 miles an hour. You never saw that. I mean, some of the hardest throwers. Now, I know it's all about sometimes, how these velocities are measured, whether it's out of the arm or whether it's, when it gets to home plate, and, the technology for that has changed. But I mean, everybody is throwing 95 to 96 miles an hour. That's a big change. And the fact that bullpens are probably the most important part of your team, because pitchers right now, I mean, if they get to 100 pitches, that's it. They're done. And a lot of times that's 5-6 innings. So that's a big change too.
So if I'm a catcher, is my job harder when I know I'm going to have 4 guys probably minimum in a game? Or I'm going to have a starter, and I got to figure out how to get a guy out that 3rd and 4th time around?
I think it's harder on the hitters. I mean, you might face a starter twice, maybe 3 times. And then after that, I mean, if you have a long game, I mean, you're facing a different guy who's coming out of the bullpen, sometimes throwing 100 miles an hour. And you're not going to get a chance to face him, 2-3 times. I mean, it used to be a short start in the big leagues, back in the 80s and 90s was, 7 innings, 6-7 innings. Now that's a great start, but, like I said, I think that the catchers, I don't think it's harder on them, to call games for guys. I think that you call pitches based on what a pitcher is, what he has that particular day. And you get a sense for that when he's warming up. All these catchers now these days, they go down to the bullpen and finish warming guys up to see what they have, what they don't have. And a lot of times it doesn't really apply. I mean, a guy can have a really good, really bad bullpen and go out there and do a great job, and just vice versa. So I think catching is not a big deal. I think pitchers, they throw as hard as they can for as long as they can, and then and then they go next, and that next guy up. So it's tough on bullpens. I know the Brewers bullpen has been used a lot. And again, when you're short, when you're down your closer, Devin Williams has been out all season with a stress fracture in his back, and I think the Brewers bullpen has done a bang-up job in his absence. There's nothing worse than losing your closer, because that disrupts everything. Everybody else has to step up. The Brewers have used 10 different starters. Bryce Wilson was supposed to be in the bullpen. He's supposed to be your 2-inning guy, 3-inning guy, middle relief. And those middle relief guys, they're important now. And that again is another reason why another way the game has changed so much.
Listen, you talk about the number of starters and the number of relievers. Like, for a while, how did you figure out who you were working with every night between LePay and BA and Levering? Like, did you just show up? Did you get a schedule? How did you know this?
Yeah.
You're a constant.
Although I don't really rely having BA next to me too often. I mean, he's off and running with the NBA, but apparently, BA is going to be back end of May. I think the Cubs come in town, so I think he's going to be done with his NBA duties, and he's going to be a regular. BA's scheduled to do around 50 games. That's kind of been what he's been doing for the last few years. But I'll tell you, I've been blessed with some great partners. I started back in '95, 2 years with Jim Paskey, great Bucks announcer. 2 different times he was a Brewers announcer. And then I had Matt Vasgersian. So when you talk about a contrast in styles, Jim Paskey, plain vanilla, X-O's. And then with Matt Vasgersian, from one pitch to another, I wasn't sure if I was going to be talking about how to hold a slider or a Flintstones episode. I was on my toes with him. And then Darren Sutton, who had energy out the kazoo, and now Brian Anderson. So 5 years with Vasgersian, 5 years with Sutton, and now this is my 18th year with Brian Anderson. I've been blessed, and Levering has been been in the booth. Matt LePay was there for a number of years. I loved working with Matty. I mean, the voice of Wisconsin football and basketball, and we had a great time together. He was my contemporary. He was the only guy really that we were kind of the same age, so we kind of got each other's corny old jokes. Now, with Tim Dillard and Vinny Rattino and Jeff Levering, some of this Generation X stuff, it kind of goes over my head, and I'm not quite sure if I'm supposed to laugh or what I'm supposed to say. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Levering is a great partner, and those guys have made my career just an absolute joy. And I've been very blessed with them.
More with Bill Schroeder of the Milwaukee Brewers in just a bit. The Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. John, if you ever go to a Brewers game, you get to hear the kid on the field say, "Play ball, play ball," and it's live.
So they're all prepubescent, then, I guess is what you're saying.
Play ball. Yeah, they are.
There are no bases or tenors in that. Okay, good.
No, they're all yes, they are. And it could be your kid or your grandkid or whoever's kid that you want it to be. All you got to do is text KID to 78402. They call it the Festival Foods Play Ball Kid. They literally bring the kid down on the field. They stick the microphone in their face, and they're up on the Jumbotron. It's play ball. Maybe I mentioned this in the past, but I think I shared with you that Rhodey, our oldest son, got to be the Nicolay water boy, right? And he ran to the field. And there's 81 home Brewer games. I mean,
81.
That's 162. Sorry, I was thinking. Yeah, I know.
It's okay. New math.
I think the play ball kid's fun. I never got the chance to do anything like that when I was a kid. I loved going to Brewer games at County Stadium, but it was never something that I was like, oh, hey, can we sign me up to do that? Can I please sign up to be the Festival Foods play ball kid? That would be really cool. If you win, you get 4 tickets to a Brewers game, a home game, of course. The Festival Foods play ball kid, text KID to 78402. You can learn more at festfoods.com/brewers. You know who else I wanted to be when I was a kid was the kids guest announcer. I still want that job.
That's what you have now.
Not for the Brewers, I don't.
Okay, well.
Did you not have
that's your whole life is right now is your whole life is you're a kids announcer.
Fair.
This GB, like you tell me you're doing anything like a full-grown adult right now.
Valid.
Other than raising a family. But in terms of work, and listen,
totally valid.
I'm not one that can, right? This is hello kettle, I'm black. Like I totally get it. Okay. I'm just saying.
I know. I just remember the days when I was a kid and I sat with my binoculars and looked up at the PA announcer and Bob Uecker. That's where my attention was, with all due respect to the field. And so maybe that's why I care so much about this Festival Foods play ball kid. I just think that's really cool for some kid. And who knows? Maybe they'll grow up to do what we do for a living, which is not work. I completely understand. Festfoods.com/brewers. Play ball kid. Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin show, presented by our friends at University of Wisconsin-Platteville, a top university in the Midwest. UW-Platteville ranks in the top 50 for best undergraduate engineering programs in the entire country and offers top-rated STEM programs in healthcare, biology, and more. Learn more at uwplatt.edu. All right, J.A., we have talked immensely in the first 80-ish episodes of Inside Wisconsin that we're big Brewers fans, right? Our team is the Brewers, and so we thought today we would just think back to our top 5 favorite Brewers and maybe do a little explanation as to why. So maybe so people can follow along, you do your number 5, I'll share my number 5, and we'll go a little bit back and forth. What do you think?
I don't know that can work.
Because usually there's a lot of color commentary on mine. So do you want me to get mine out of the way?
Honestly, because I've had, like, if we had to tape this tomorrow, I would have a different top 5.
Oh, okay.
Like just in the last hour, I've put together, I think, roughly 72 different lineups. And so, like, the number of people, I'm looking at these people like, okay, Moose Haas and Bill Travers and Jim Slayton. Like, how did they not make the list? Or Corey Hart, he's not a J.J. Hardy, who played baseball in high school. If I've never told that story, how is he not on the list? Or Jeff D'Amico, who was, Jeff D'Amico, had a picture of Jeff D'Amico and Linda Cohn sitting on my desk for like 15 years. Dick Davis, how does he not know? Mike Caldwell, Vukovic, all these things. Like, I'm like, my list doesn't have Gumby, doesn't have Gorman Thomas. Doesn't have Alfredo Garcia. It just like, or Pedro Garcia. It's terrible.
There may be a very good chance that none of my 5 are on yours. So why don't I go ahead with my top 5?
Ryan Braun is not on my list.
Well, he did. He made mine.
Ryan Braun's not on my list. Who else do I have that I've written down here? Like my original one had Yount, Braun, Molly Coon. Like, nope, that's scratched out. That one's gone. It's like crazy. Sixto Lascano didn't make my list. If there was a 6th, Sixto Lascano would be my 6th.
Probably so, yeah.
Who you don't even know.
I thought it was too easy to choose the guys that had the retired numbers too. I just
Yelly's not on my list. Ben Ogilvy, who should be on my list, isn't on my list.
I want.
Like if we did this as a top 50, I might be able to just name the 50 guy. Fernando Vina's not on my list. He should be on my. Ernie Riles is not on my list. This is tragic. Okay. I'm going to insult more people than I am anyway. Okay, go ahead.
I feel like at this point we have no idea who actually is on your top 5. So why don't I share mine?
Yeah.
Because I doubt any of these guys are on yours.
Okay, let's go.
All right, my top 5 favorite Brewers, and then I want to hear your list of 100.
All right, what do we got?
And number 5, Greg Vaughn. I loved Vaughn's Valley growing up. County Stadium, there was a big Vaughn's Valley thing on the top of the left field fence. Loved it. Greg Vaughn, Vaughn's Valley. Number 4 for me, B.J. Surhoff.
Okay, good. Number 1 overall pick out of North Carolina. Drafted as a catcher, made his way in the bigs as a third baseman. Also a great Oriole.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Did you know, though, and I don't think we even mentioned it talking to Bill Schroeder, do you know that the only reason he caught that game with Nieves, the no-hitter game, was B.J. Surhoff had, like, emergency dental work done, and he had to go in. I'd be pissed if I was B.J. Number 3, a tie for third. Look at me. 2 in the same line. Ben Sheets and CC Sabathia. Ben Sheets was by far the most dominant pitcher outside of Raleigh Fingers, I understand, that was here for multiple years, and CC Sabathia did something stupid special for, 3 months?
Yeah. So Sheets doesn't make mine, but he's there, along with, well, keep going. I keep interrupting, and it's terrible because I just keep thinking of more people that should be in there. So it's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
2, Ryan Braun. 1, Robin Yount. I think those 2 names. Now, I love Ryan Braun outside of the whole thing. We don't even talk about that, but I mentioned it. 2008, Brewers make the playoffs for the first time in my lifetime.
Yep.
So that was a huge Ryan Braun piece to that. And number 1, Robin Yount.
Sure.
I have it somewhere here. Robin Yount's 3,000th hit book that it was like a memorabilia piece, and that's probably one of my all-time favorite Bob Uecker calls. 3,000 for Robin. I don't know if you remember that. Anyway, Robin Yount, number 1. It just iconic.
So you left off Teddy Higuera and Giovanni Gallardo and John Jaha and Mark Brohard. Rob Deere, you left him off.
I did have a Rob Deere baseball card growing up. Chris Bosio. Yeah, I don't know how. The fact that
I left all those people off too.
Okay. I'm fascinated now to know if I even know who your guys are. I will know some of them, 100% chance, but here we go.
Okay. Number 5, kind of like you, is CC Sabathia, because I think it's unbelievably special that he did that. And we talked with Bill that he went in there and that he was thrown on 3 days rest, and he just kept throwing nothing but zeros and complete games. It was the most phenomenal 3-month stretch of baseball ever. And again, impending free agency. If that guy's elbow goes out, his shoulder gets hurt, who knows how much it cost him. And he just went out there every day. And I went back to a game, probably 2011 or 12. It was significantly after he had joined the Yankees. And they were still selling his jersey in the clubhouse, and it was still full price. Wow. Right? Usually those guys leave, and they're like, okay, here's your $80 jersey. You can get it for $29.99. Sabathia, years after he left, still in the pro shop and still full price.
Did he ever come in and close out a game for us? Was that a thing, or did he?
I don't recall. Okay. I don't. I just remember him going out there and taking the ball and not giving it up until the last out was made.
Seriously.
Which was amazing. So number 4, and I did not pick my list by weight, but number 4 was George the Boomer Scott at first base, the great power hitting, the first really great Brewer. By the way, Larry Heisel's not on my list, and he could be. So could be Sal Bando, who changed the whole nature of the franchise when Sal came as a free agent over from the A's and played third base long before he was in the front office. God rest his soul. But George the Boomer Scott, who used to have this kind of looked like a puka shell necklace that he wore, but he always said it was made out of second baseman's teeth that he got from breaking up double plays. So he was unbelievable. And he kind of figures in later in the list. So if you didn't, George, power hitter, go back and look. The George Scott sideburn should put him on your list, if for nothing else. Okay? Just so you know.
Got it.
Number 3, and again, I promise I'm not body shaming him. Number 3 is Prince Fielder. Okay? So you want to talk about a heavy list. CC, Spoomer, and then Fielder. But and we like Mr. Prince when I went and threw out a first pitch. The one time I threw out a first pitch at a Brewer game. To Chad Miller, who eventually then like a week later was released. And my son was with me. And so I threw from in front of the mound. The mound had been perfectly groomed, and you don't want to go up there and step on it, right? You got to know your place. So I step in front of it, threw a beautiful strike. It's great. My son goes running right up behind me and goes and stands on the rubber. So I have this great picture of me throwing it, and my son's behind me just going, yeah, Colin, this big. And it was great.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
But then afterwards, we went in, and Mr. Fielder, that's what we always call him, signed a ball, and he's got a Prince Fielder bat that's still in his room.
Oh, wow.
I think I've shown you the Prince Fielder bat. So we have that. So he's number 3. Number 2, Robin Yount.
Okay.
See, there you go. Now I've got your attention. Number 2 is Robin Yount because he's Mr. Brewer, right? If there's a guy that's Mr. Brewer, and I don't know in my lifetime if I'll see another Mr. a guy that replaces that. There just won't. Like Yelich could win 5 more MVPs, and he won't be that just because he didn't come up through the system, didn't come up as an 18-year-old kid, didn't play 20 years there, all that other thing. So I don't know how or who wrest that title away from him. If that, like, it's like Ernie Banks is always going to be Mr. Cub, right?
Right.
Supposed to hit a million home runs. They win a World Series. You got Pryor, you got Wood, you've got Rizzo or Bryant. Nobody's been, and I think that's where Robin Yount will always be. He's going to be Mr. Brewer. So number 1 then comes in a trade for George Scott. Do you remember when we sent George Scott to the Red Sox?
No.
Do you know who Bernie Carter is?
I've heard of that name, yes.
Okay, even if you don't believe that, I'm going to pretend. I'm not going to call you on it. Anyway, so do you remember who we got back in the big piece in the Boomer trade with the Red Sox?
Can you give me what year it was?
He was one of the most prominent Brewers on the World Series team. Number one is Cecil Cooper.
Cecil Cooper, yeah.
Favorite Brewer. Big part of it was he batted left-handed. And as a left-handed bat, that was great. And the way he kind of leaned back and held it just like that, I could still do his swing like crazy. You sent me the guy that did the Brewer thing. Go look at his Cooper. It's fantastic, especially when he gets get down. So yeah, he's still my all-time favorite Brewer. He came in, drove in 1 million runs, hit home runs. It was when helped change the attitude of what that team was under Bamberger, one of the original Bambi's bombers that came through there. So he would be my favorite. Sabathia, Boomer, Fielder, Yount, and Cecil Cooper.
And now I know why you were ready to oust Gantner out of my top 5-3 trio guys from the Brewers, and there goes in Cooper. It made sense. I get that. Little bonus content here, just out of curiosity. What's the next number that's retired by the Brewers?
Gee,
do we know? Yeah, I don't know.
I left off Charlie Moore. That was terrible of me that I didn't put Charlie Moore in there. I didn't say Don Money, who, if anybody's the foundation of the franchise, it's probably Don Money. I didn't say Darryl Porter. I didn't say Dale Swaim. I didn't say Kevin Seitzer. I'm a terrible human being for how many people I left off. Or
maybe your brain is just too good.
And there's, and then you go through the lean years, right? Like, get in there. Jeff Cirillo. I didn't mention Jeff Cirillo. I told you the time he punked me. I didn't hold no grudges, but that was terrible. There's so many guys that we left off. We didn't, Ned Yost, Buck Martinez. How do you leave off Buck Martinez? Who's still working and doing great stuff, calling games for the Toronto Blue Jays. You needed to stop me or I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I left off that are terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
Jimmy Wolford, how do we not do him? Roy Howell, who came as a free agent in that team in the 80s. From the Blue
Anytime
Jays.
You're ready, Craig. We'll just cut it whenever. We're good.
My apologies to all the people I completely ignored and forgot to name. It's terrible. I'm a bad guy.
We're back, the Inside Wisconsin show. Trevor, John, and Bill Schroeder with the Milwaukee Brewers. Bill, you arrived here in '83. You were gone for just a couple years, and now this is home, right? And I know you have a place in Arizona. What was it about Wisconsin and specifically Milwaukee and the Brewers that bit you because you can't leave?
Well, back in those days, my minimum salary was $42,500. This was 1983, and we were in a position. A lot of us, Yount and Mulder and Gorman and Vuki. I mean, they all lived in Wisconsin because back in those days you didn't have the resources to have multiple homes, right? But Wisconsin, we took to Wisconsin right away. I mean, it's just a down-to-earth, blue-collar town. I got to know a gentleman from the old-time ball players organization in Wisconsin here, and got to know him pretty well. And he gave me a piece of advice when I first came up. And he said to me, he says, make sure you take good care of the people here in town while you're playing, because if you do that, they will take care of you when you're done playing. And no truer words have ever been spoken. I have been the luckiest guy in the world. I've been doing Brewers television for 30 years. I'll never forget, that was Paul Schrammke, a gentleman that I'll never forget. I stuck with that. And this city has been wonderful to me and my family.
So whenever I come on, we do this show, I wear something usually that is Wisconsin themed. And since Trevor doesn't know anything that happened before 1983 in his life, do you know why this sweatshirt that says Avon Old Farms is connected to Wisconsin?
Avon Old Farms.
Yeah.
I do not know that.
That is a high school in Connecticut. And Avon Old Farms, they have a very, very strong, deep baseball program history.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps their greatest player in high school, and didn't have the longest career, but their best player they've ever had at Avon Old Farms was probably Juan Nieves.
Juan, really?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Tell me what it was like to catch that ball game, the only no-hitter in Brewers history.
Well, first of all, it was part of that 13-0 start for the Brewers.
Yeah.
Game 9. It was on tax day of all days. April 15th, I believe it was. And, it was cold. It was raining. Orioles had a heck of a lineup. They had Eddie Murray. They had Cal Ripken Jr. They had Terry Kennedy. They had a laundry list of really good players. And Juan had basically a fastball. That was all he had. And, every now and again he'd flip up a curveball. Just to keep him honest, but he had electric stuff that day. He was tough to catch. His ball was moving, darting and sinking, and I'd put down a 1 and the ball would cut. I'd put down a 1 the next pitch and it would sink, and it was all about the release point. And it was interesting that we had a pretty comfortable lead throughout the game, and it was a 7-0 lead, I believe it was. I think Juan walked 4 in that game, maybe more. But we get 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, Cal Ripken up, and me and my infinite wisdom, it was a 2-0 count, and I kind of decided we're not going to lose this no-hitter. The game's well in hand. We're not going to lose this no-hitter on a 2-0 pitch. So I kind of was setting up outside and walked Ripken on 4 pitches, and the smart thing about that was, not only, Cal Ripken, but you have Eddie Murray on deck. So the first pitch to Eddie Murray was a fastball. He hit it to Robin. And initially when he hit the baseball, I thought it was right at Robin, but it was slicing further and further away. It was a little bit windy. And the big question in everybody's mind was, did Robin have to dive, or could he have just ran it down? But Robin dove, caught the baseball, and the rest is history. So that was an amazing day. And I always say that I get credit for catching a no-hitter, but it was the easiest game I've ever called in my life, because it was basically fastballs. And it was one of those days where, he was just eating up bats and breaking bats and off the end. And there were some really great defensive plays. I remember Rob Deere made a great play coming in on a soft fly ball, and Molitor made a couple of good plays. Dale Swaim made a good play on a bad hop at shortstop. And then, of course, you have that catch by Robin. So you have to have a lot of luck in order to throw a no-hitter, and he certainly did that day.
My son, by the way, would tell you that George Springer is the greatest Avon Old Farms player, but he's not a Brewer yet, so that doesn't count. When we see these, I've sat through enough nights waiting for no-hitters and doing this, and we always show the pitcher in the dugout. We show the pitcher coming out. Oh, my God, the pitcher's nerves. What are the catcher's nerves like? Because, like you said, you get in that spot, and you're like, I'm not going to know this. Like, you put down the wrong fingers, and the next thing you know, it's over. Like, what kind of heat's on you?
Yeah, well, you do, especially, in that situation where the game was pretty well in hand. You weren't really concerned too much, about, losing the game. You don't really think about a no-hitter. You don't think it's possible until, I think, for me anyway, you get through the 7th inning. You get through the 7th inning, you've been through the lineup 2 or 3 times, and, you get into the 8th with a no-hitter. Then that starts creeping into your mind. especially, when you have the game well in hand. Now, the game's tight. There's a lot of different things going through your head. But, no hitters are going to be tough to come by these days because of pitch count. And you don't see too many guys throw 9 innings anymore. I know Mitch Keller, who beat the Brewers in yesterday's game, threw 9 innings. His start before 109 pitches. So you better be able to manage pitch counts in order to go innings, because pitch counts, that's the big thing these days. But once you get through the 7th inning, I think you start thinking about it. You're looking at the lineup, who's coming up, what you're going to do. You sit right next to the pitcher, not talking a whole lot, but it starts creeping into your head once you get through the 7th inning.
And you said that was game 9 of that streak to open the season. What was that 89, that 1987, those couple of weeks to start the season like? That had to be just floating.
It was crazy. I mean, especially, when you get past, you get 10 in a row. And then I remember the Texas Rangers were in town over the weekend, and, we were sitting at, game 12, I think it was, game 11. So we're playing on Easter Sunday. We're down by 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. Brewers end up tying it with a big Rob Deere home run, who was bucking like a 20-mile-an-hour wind coming in from the lake. And then Dale Swain with the big home run. But it was one of those things where it didn't seem as though there was any way we could lose. So we started the season 13-0. Things couldn't have been going any better. And then in May, we lost 12 straight. So by the All-Star break, we were around 500 after starting the season, 13-0. And then, of course, after the All-Star break, Molitor was on the injured list. He had a hamstring. After the All-Star break, he started to play again and had a 39-game hitting streak. So that's why they called his team streak, winning streaks, losing streaks, and Molitor's 39-game hitting streak. That was an amazing thing to watch him go through, too. So he got to about 25, and, the Brewers were requesting that he do a personal little, press conference in the dugout and talking about things, and an amazing amount of pressure on Molly. Sometimes he would get a hit his last at bat, and sometimes it was a home run. Sometimes, he eliminate all the mystery by getting base hit his first time up. But the thing I remember most about the Molitor hitting streak is the way it ended. Rick Manning, it was a tie game. Rick Manning's up, man at second base. There's 1 out. Molitor's on deck, and he doesn't have a hit. And, Manning gets a base hit. The Brewers win the game, and Rick Manning gets booed in County Stadium because they wanted him to make an out. Why would you do that? Why don't you just make an out? Let Molitor get up there and extend his hitting streak. But the first guy to congratulate Manning after getting that base hit was Paul Molitor. That's the kind of guy he was.
All right, so John mentioned it earlier. I was born in 1983. And so your Brewers team in the early to mid-'80s was like my first team.
Right.
And my first playoff team was 2008. 82, not alive. 2008, turns out I'm here. What was that like for a Brewers fan, and specifically for a guy like you that got in the booth in 95 and then finally in 2008 we're back in the playoffs?
I forget what year it was, but I remember the Brewers were in Pittsburgh, and it was a few years before that. And they won a game in Pittsburgh that guaranteed a 500 season for the Brewers. Now that was big news.
Yeah.
Brewers lost 106 games, I think it was, in 2001 or 2002, something like that. So that was an emotional thing. I mean, I was fired up when they finally. And they had 2 more games. They lost both of those. They could have had a season that they were over 500, but they played a 500 season was a big deal. Now 2008, unbelievable. You remember Ryan Braun? I mean, the Brewers were trying to get into the wild card. I remember in Pittsburgh. We were playing Pittsburgh at then Miller Park, and Ryan Braun hit a big grand slam, and Brewers win that game. They stay alive in the playoffs. And then that final game, CC Sabathia, he came over, before the trading deadline, and he was pitching on 3 days rest for like 4 straight starts. I mean, CC Sabathia, one of the classiest, hardest. I mean, this guy, he's one of my favorite all-time guys. I mean, he was only there for half a season, but he took the ball last day of the season, needed to beat the Cubs. They beat the Cubs. Ryan Braun, another big home run. And I remember the biggest thing, and I know I'm not telling you guys anything, but this is one of my top sports moments of all time, playing days included, is the Brewers won that game. You know, the Brewers turned a double play against the Cubs. Craig Counsell was playing second base. And it was a complete game for CC. And then nobody left the ballpark because the Marlins needed to beat the Mets for the Brewers to be able to clinch a wild card spot. Had the Mets beat the Marlins that day, the Brewers were set to go to New York to play a play-in game. Wes Helms with a big home run, and I tell you, it's just one of those things where you just I think about it, you get goosebumps. And Brewers break a 26-year playoff drought, and that day I'll never forget. I mean, the place was packed. The game was over. Nobody left. They put that Mets Marlins game up on the scoreboard, and it was an amazing thing to behold.
The Sabathia stint to me is still the most amazing thing I've seen as a Brewer fan. And I grew up through 82 in the World Series. By the way, how about this? 82, watch the World Series, and then the next year go to college in the middle of Missouri with 1 million Cardinal fans. Talking about a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, right.
But not only was he throwing on 3 days rest, throwing complete games, the dude was a free agent. Like, I don't know that even, what's that now? That's 20 years. But I'm not sure there's an agent in the world that would let his pitcher go out and do that. Like, he was an impending free agent, and he still went out there and threw that rock every day, which was crazy.
He's a gamer. It defies all real conventional wisdom, right?
Yeah.
The guy. The fastball, the slider. He wanted to pitch every inning. And I remember a game in Pittsburgh where he pitched, and there was a comebacker to him, and he bobbled it a little bit. Should have been an error. They gave him a hit in Pittsburgh, and it was the only hit of the game. He should have had a no-hitter. But the hometown official scorer, Andy LaRoche, a base hit on that. Never forget it. So there's certain things, and when you do these games, as long as I have been doing them, things that stick out. Sometimes things that people don't really think about or remember, like the final game at County Stadium. The speech that Euchre gave after the game, and first game at Miller Park. Those are the types of things that I was just so fortunate to be a part of.
So I love stadiums, and you walk me right into it. Just tell me what it was like to play at County Stadium. Everybody's in the AmFam at Miller Park. I grew up, I've been in every seat in, not everyone, but I've been on first baseline, behind the plate, upper deck. What was County Stadium like?
Fantastic. It was a big league ballpark. Like I said, you go around, you go to Yankee Stadium, you go to Fenway Park. Those places are cathedrals, right? But County Stadium was our ballpark. I remember our field was not the greatest playing surface in the world. Of course, playing surfaces these days all around baseball are just immaculate. They're perfect. You hardly ever see bad hops. But it was a challenge at County Stadium. It really was. And I remember when I first got called up, and the hitting background at County Stadium was a series of silver aluminum bleachers. So in day games, the sun was beating on those silver bleachers. Not exactly the greatest of backgrounds to hit on. And they finally, after many years, painted those things green. But it was fantastic. It was my first ever, home big league ballpark, and I was sad to see it go. But the place we're playing in now is absolutely amazing. That roof has saved us so many rainouts and so many, cold, horrible weather games, and we're just really fortunate in Milwaukee to be able to have it.
At Fenway, right, you'll see the guys, young guys, they go the first time, they all want to go behind the green monster and see the scoring machine. Like, how long were you there before you're like, I really need to walk up into that beer keg and see what the hell's in there in center field? That would be the second thing I did after I found my locker.
I've never been up there because I'm afraid of heights.
You got to be kidding me.
A couple of times that I actually scaled those stairs to go down the slide at the ballpark here, and I looked down, and have you gone down the slide?
No,
I have.
So you stand at the top and you look at it, and it goes literally straight down. And, nobody has ever fallen off of it, but I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to be the first guy that's going to go airman up and slide, and I'm going to end up killing So 2 times I took the walk of shame. I walked up the stairs and I walked down the stairs. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. But it wasn't on the air. But I'm not afraid to admit that, I'm not a heights guy. I don't like it. But
yeah. Well, don't drink and slide. That's what they say. So you got that. The other stadium question I have is because I'm fascinated because I think it's one of the great events in America in sports. How'd you enjoy playing at Rosenblatt in a College World Series?
Oh, that was great. That was great. 1977 with Clemson. And that was the year that University of Minnesota was there, and Paul Molitor was playing shortstop for the U. We lost 2 games. We won 1. We beat Temple. We lost to Arizona State, and we lost to Cal State Los Angeles. But it was fantastic. They treated you like royalty there. That was my freshman year at Clemson. So never did get back to the College World Series after that. Played in the regionals every year. Went to Miami, Mark Light Stadium back in those days. I don't know if that's still what it's called, but I remember specific, those years at, Mark Light Stadium in Miami, the way those fans used to get on me. They were notorious and for really giving the catcher of the team that they were playing a hard time. And I tell you what, I still remember that. And I wake up in a cold sweat thinking about those regional games. Stuff that I heard as I was trying to play a game is amazing.
All right, we're going to be back in 2 minutes to wrap it up with The Rock, Bill Schroeder, Milwaukee Brewers, the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. All right, J.A., we've had the debate before. Propane or charcoal? Smoker or green egg? Can I tell you that I did steaks on the Blackstone the other day? Do you have a Blackstone, a flat top grill?
No, but see, now some of this is just me as a pyro. I like the pyrotechnics of like having it on the grill so that when you get a nice marbled steak, then when that grease and the fat burns off, that I get flames. I like to have flames. I don't get that on your little Blackstone. Plus, I don't like anything like now you can make a scrambled egg on a grill. Forget it. That's not true. I think that's cheating. That should be outlawed. But good for you.
I had never done it before. The Blackstone's in our garage. That's the closest grill I have to my stash of Miller Lite in my garage beer fridge, which is fully stocked again, thanks to winter finally disappearing here in Northeast Wisconsin. But beer in hand and pick your grill. I just think that Miller Lite's the perfect grilling beer. Like we've talked. I mean, you can have all these. Why would you have all these stupid, super filling? Less filling. Go taste great. Go Miller Lite when you grill. And I don't. All right. I know that you can make.
If you want, right? You can boil them up a little. Boil up a broad in your thing, and then grill it up after that. There's a lot, or if you sometimes just a little dash of flavor before you take them off.
Yeah.
A little dash. That's all. You do that. It's like basting. You can baste it. You can use Miller Lite to baste if you want when you do that.
I gotta try that now. Instead of using what I use, Wagyu beef something on the Blackstone with those steaks. I'm gonna try Miller Lite next time. I'm just gonna pour Miller Lite on, not a lot of it. I think that's a waste.
Just a little.
Some people put butter on top of their steaks. I put Miller Lite.
Just just a little here for you, and then the angels share. Just a little of the angels share. That's all.
Oh, I'm so glad it's grilling season. I'm a little disappointed. I forgot the grill when we were at the Brewer game the other day. It was Mother's Day. I didn't want to. I forgot it. It doesn't matter that it was Mother's Day.
You know what I forgot? Jeremy Jeffers, Wade Miley, Lo Kane, Mike Cameron. I forgot all those guys. I forgot Mike Fetters. It's just Ricky Bonus. Like, this is terrible.
And the fact that you haven't named a single person twice is what's shocking to me. I'm going to forget this if I don't do it now. Okay. With a Miller Lite in hand, grilling doesn't just taste great. It tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/InsideWisconsin, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces. You know who you haven't said?
Daryl Hamilton. What?
You haven't said Hank Aaron. He was only here for 1 year. I'm surprised you didn't just.
He's a Brave. No,
That's
Hank Aaron. He was actually there 2 seasons. He came back. He was there for 2.
I tried.
It's all right. Good for you. Number 44.
We are back to wrap it up with The Rock, Bill Schroeder with the Milwaukee Brewers, Trevor John, and the lightning round after a few questions from me. All right. First things first, Rock, you have a very unique perspective on Bob Uecker. You played and got to know Bob Uecker as a player, and now nobody has been to his side in the booth next to him longer than you.
Yeah.
Tell us about your relationship with Bob Uecker.
He's 90 years old. He comes to the ballpark just about every day here. He doesn't do home games. Doesn't do road games anymore. Of course, I don't do them either. But one of the greatest parts of this job over the course of about 27 years that I was able to travel with you was to hear his stories on the buses, on the planes, in the press room, some of the stories that he would tell. I would say this, that there is nobody on the face of the earth that I would rather get a look at his contact list on his phone than Bob Uecker. He's got some of the greatest, people in the world. Actors, actresses, presidents, you name it. Uecker, Bob talks to him. And there were times when we were on our way to the ballpark somewhere and, George Bush would be calling him. It's like, gosh. But Uecker has a great perspective. I've learned so much from Bob Uecker. I've never really actually worked with him. He's always been radio. I've always been TV. But just some of the wisdom that he's imparted on me in that, how to do this job, to enjoy doing this job, never take this job for granted. It's a privilege to be in baseball, and it's a privilege to be a broadcaster. It's a privilege to go on that field. It's a privilege to go in that clubhouse. He has never forgotten that. And he also always, in listening to him do a game, he never, these are the types of things he doesn't say a whole lot, unless you ask him. But, don't ever let this game get personal. You can point out what happened, what should have happened, why it didn't happen, those types of things, but don't make it personal. Don't identify names. Just say in generalities, because players understand that you have a job, and if they make a mistake, like yesterday, Willie Adames, the Brewers are down by 5. He hits a double off the wall, right? I think it's in the 7th inning, and he drives in 2 runs, but then he gets thrown out at third base for the 3rd out. So again, you don't get personal with it. You just say, hey, you never make the 3rd out at third base, especially when you're down by 3 runs after 2 runs scored on that double. But Uecker, he's one of the guys. He's always been one of the guys. He's not a broadcaster per se. He's one of the guys that is in the radio booth. And, the guys love him. We all love him. We miss him when he's not at the ballpark, but we're very fortunate. The Brewers are fortunate. Milwaukee, very fortunate, because that over time he had many opportunities to go elsewhere and probably make a lot more money than he was making with the Brewers. He's from Milwaukee. He grew up with Bud Selig. He's a very loyal guy, and for that we're very fortunate.
So what I heard you say is, don't make it personal. Got it.
Don't make it personal. Don't say, there's, what I'm saying. There's ways you can really, not you don't do that, because you know what? I tell you what, and this is true, and it's hard down there. It's real easy up in the broadcast booth. It's real easy in the fans, in the stands, but in my wallet, I carry my 1990 baseball card, and I look at those feeble stats. And when I start thinking how easy this game is, I pull that card out and say, I hit a $189 in 1 year. So you know what? Shut up. It's hard. It's a hard game, and it's even harder now than it was back then.
Can I interject real quick here, Trev?
Yeah.
I just want to know, since you've been around Uecker for so long, because I know this happens to me. I'll like my son, I'll show him an old story of him on the Tonight Show. Like, you've probably heard the same story 50 times. Mm-hmm. And yet my guess is you still laugh. Like, do you find that amazing? You're like, I've heard this how many times and I'm still laughing.
But he changes it just a little bit every time. It's the same story, but it's not. And it's like sometimes they'll add stuff, whether it's true or not. I'm not sure. The story itself is true, but some of the ones might be a little bit fetched. But
okay.
We love the stories, and you know what? When he stops telling the stories, we're gonna be missing.
It's gonna be the worst.
Yeah, the worst. All right, speaking of the worst, things got personal this offseason. Rather than talk about Craig Counsell, I'm curious, how fun is it to hate the Cubs? When you played, it was the White Sox, American League. Today,
right?
Not big fans of the blue and white. From your seat, what's that like?
Well, I don't so much mind the players for the Cubs. I mean, I don't really. There's not really players that come in and play the Brewers that you have this animosity with. Maybe there might be some history with a guy in Milwaukee that but you don't talk about it on the air. The fans. But what really burns me is when the Cubs come to Milwaukee, and they're going to be here at the end of May, and half of the stadium is filled with Cub fans, and it's okay. We like it when Cub fans spend their money in our ballpark. But I tell you, when something goes well with the on the field for the Cubs and the stadium erupts, it just irritates me for some reason. But the same thing happens at Wrigley Field, though. I mean, there's a lot of Brewer fans at Wrigley Field, so I would imagine that the same can be applied to Cubs front office and broadcasters. When something good happens with the Brewers at Wrigley Field and the stadium erupts, and it really doesn't matter who's doing well, who's good, who's bad. It's just when the Cubs and the Brewers get together, the security at American Family Field is always bolstered. We always talk about to the security guys, and he said when the Cubs are in town, there is a brouhaha just about every night at the ballpark. So, no love lost.
Here's the big difference. Wrigley Field's a dump. And it has been. Remember, Babe Ruth said that at the end of his career. Man, I'd give half my salary if I could hit it this dump every time. I'm like, that was in the 1920s. It was a dump. Yeah. And now it's 100 years later, so they can call whatever they want. So
yeah, it's fun. It's fun doing games there once you're in the booth. But getting to the booth is a challenge. Going up those ramps all the time. It's like getting to be 65 and getting up those ramps up and down. It's one thing if you're going up the ramp once and getting into the booth, but you go up there, you put your stuff down, then you come down and then you on the field, and so you're going up and down those ramps quite a bit. And getting home from Wrigley Field is no picnic either. I mean that's quite the environment around Wrigley Field. I think it's a lot of fun for fans, but trying to find a cab outside of Wrigley Field is a proposition.
All right, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Let me go. You talked about Wisconsin. I want to know, what's the most New Jersey thing about you?
My some of the things that I say are kind of New Jersey, and I'm a pizza snob in that I don't like all kinds of stuff on my pizza. It's cheese, sauce, and maybe some pepperoni, and I'm not a big deep dish guy, but that's the big Jersey thing about me. I'm kind of an Italian food snob growing up in New Jersey. They have the greatest Italian food of all time, except for a couple of my buddies have restaurants here. I'll include them. But, Philly, New York, New Jersey, there's nothing like the Italian food that you get there.
Where's your plaque in the Brewers Wall of Fame?
It's right next to Bill Hall. There was a kind of a joke being told when I was selected to go on that Wall of Honor, that I was going to be right next to the plaque for the dog. What was that dog's name? Hank the dog. And I kind of believed him. I said, Hank got a plaque right next to me? I said, I thought you had to be a player to get something like that. Somebody like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm over there. I go by there every now and again when I'm going to the team store. And, I make Vinny Rottino and Tim Dillard kiss the ring.
Nice. Who keeps the best scorebook of your partners?
Well, other than me.
Okay, is yours good? Yours clean?
I have a great score. It's color coded. Brewers lineup in black. Your visiting lineup in red. And there are certain plays that are certain at bats that I highlight, I mark in red, and nobody can figure out why I highlight those in red. But I'll tell you why. What they are. They are at bats with runners in scoring position. So when I look down, and that's a big deal. I mean, how are they with runners in scoring position? I can look down and. That Christian Yelich is, 2 for 3 with runners in scoring position just by the color of the scorebook. But a lot of our, Levering and BA, they don't have a scorebook. They just use the lineup sheet that the press box provides, which that's a bit lazy. But hey, that's me. I have a book that I carry around, and I have all the games. And one funny story about the scorebook. So this is back when Harry Carey was doing games for the Cubs, and I was at Wrigley Field, and Harry Carey's doing a game. So I said, I'm going to have Harry sign my scorebook. So I went over there in between innings. You got to be quick. What do you got, 90 seconds or so? And I told him my name. I said, Harry, Bill Schroeder, can you sign my scorebook? Remember, Bill Schroeder. Bill, I said it like 3 or 4 times. He signs it. I get back, and he says, hey, John, holy cow, Harry Carey. I think he did it on purpose. What do you think?
Hey, that's fantastic. Oh, my God. So, yeah, we've got a Bill Schroeder. There's also a Bill Schroeder. How often do you get his mail, or are you confused with the old Packer?
I have received, not often, but maybe about over the course of time, a dozen or so football cards for me to sign. Bill Schroeder. The Packer wide receiver. But it's funny because there aren't too many people in Wisconsin. People will say, I've been watching you for 30 years. I was watching as a player, and they drop my name and they call me Schrader. And if you were watching me for 30 years, you would know that that's not how I pronounce my name. It's Schroeder. Right. So only in Wisconsin is my name spelling pronounced Schrader. Oh. Everywhere else it's Schroeder.
Do you ever get any Larry McCarron thing for being the Rock?
I was never called Schrader in New Jersey ever, or South Carolina in college or anywhere else. But here it's a Schrader, and I've learned to live with it. So,
all right. Did you ever get Larry McCarron's mail for being the Rock?
No, there's so many Rocks, aren't there? How many Rocks are there? My God.
Okay.
Larry McCarron and Tim Raines and the Rock and oh man.
When you played, who was the most entertaining pitcher to visit on the mound?
Chris Bosio. Because when I walked out there, I wasn't sure if he was going to listen to what I was saying or punch me in the mouth. Boz had some unbelievable passion for the game. I mean, he was about as keen a competitor as there is, or ever will be in the game. Quick funny story about Boz. So he threw a no-hitter when he was with Seattle, and he had the flu, and he made his start anyway. So he went out there first inning, walked the first 2 guys. Pitching coach comes out, and this is Chris Bosio in a nutshell. Pitching coach comes out and he says, "Hey Boz, what's wrong?" He says, and Boz looks at him and says, "You're the pitching coach. You tell me what's wrong." And he had to throw the no-hitter. So anyway, I thought that was a funny.
Everybody knows Clemson football now. Who was the Clemson football coach when you were there?
Oh, man, that was Danny Ford.
Very good. Perfect. Love that. Cold beer or an old-fashioned?
Oh, geez. You kidding me? Can I have one of each?
Sure.
A smoked old-fashioned for that matter. I just, smoked old-fashioned.
Okay.
Put smoke in. But anyway, I'm a brewer guy, so beer.
Very good. How many strokes do you give or get from BA on a golf course?
From BA?
Yeah.
He won't play with me because I'm no good. He gave me some advice. Many years ago. I would get mad at a shot, and he said, "Rock, you're not good enough to get mad." So I shoot about 85. He's about 75. So
yeah, he's a player.
He's good.
When you're catching, I need to know best fastball you caught.
Brian Harvey, California
best curveball.
California curveball. Burt Blyleven.
Oh yeah. How about a slider?
Chuck Krim.
Ooh, okay. And then, did anybody throw a knuckler besides Candiotti? I don't even know if there's anybody else in the game for that honor.
Bob McClure would throw a knuckleball, but he wouldn't tell me. I'd call a fastball. He'd throw a knuckleball. I'd go out there and say, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I saw him leaning. I didn't want to throw a fastball, so I decided to throw a knuckleball." So,
finally, this was my favorite pitcher as a kid. Tell me a Moose Haas story. That was my guy.
I'll tell you what. Well, Moose was about the best control pitcher. He and Jim Slayton, as I go back, but we were in Kansas City one night, and for some reason we had to be out of there in like 2.5 hours, and that included showering, getting dressed, and getting on the bus. And Moose Haas, I mean, you can look it up. I might be off a little bit, but he threw a 9-inning game, complete game against Kansas City in like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Hate it because for some reason they were going to shut the airport down. I forget what the story was, or maybe we're going to Toronto and they shut the airport down at a certain time. So that and the fact that Moose Haas can drink beer like no one else I've ever seen in my life and not gain an ounce.
Even more than Robin Yount, because Yount can put him back.
I've never seen Robin drink a lot of beer. I know that on flights back in the day when we had an off day the next day, he would sometimes get a little carried away with the wine, but we didn't see that very often.
Well, the Moose Haas, he for whatever reason, I don't know, I was fascinated. Maybe it's just because the guy name was Moose. Because Billy Travers was fun with his forkball and Slayton and Vukovic, but for whatever reason, I was always a Moose Haas guy.
Moose was a fastball, slider, occasional curveball, and he wasn't overpowering. He wasn't like throwing in the mid 90s. I mean, he could probably get 90. Back in those days, speed guns, like Tom Henke, he was throwing 92. That was off the charts fast back then. But now, pitchers' mothers throw 92 these days, so that's nothing anymore.
Yeah, I watch them. They just run guys out, like you said, 96, 98 out of the pen, every boom, 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 and that's how and that's why what makes Williams so unique, right? Like this guy just keeps throwing a changeup again and again and again.
Yeah, but he can throw in the upper 90s. He can reach back and let her fly, and but that changeup is the best changeup. I mean, it's amazing, the way he can get that side spin on it, that 3 to 9 rotation on it, and I tell you, it's the best changeup in the big league, best changeup I've ever seen.
I didn't ask that. When you caught, who's the best changeup? We went through that. I missed that one.
Best changeup. I don't know. I didn't. I have to take the fifth on that one. I don't recall.
But if there's 2 outs in the ninth, and I need the one guy to get somebody out, who's on the mound for you that you caught?
Chuck Finley.
Ooh.
Chuck, fastball, slider, nasty split. I love catching him. And Chuck Finley was about, you know what? And taking a close second to that would be Teddy Higuera.
Love Ted. Well, that's good. We got one on each side, one from each of your guys. So anyway, I appreciate it. Hey, thanks so much for coming. I'm glad you're feeling better. And we've gone through this whole hour, but I'm really buoyed by the fact that the very first 30 seconds you told me we got a good team. That's really what I need to know. So go on.
We do have a good team. It's sustainable. And I think, that, once you get Devin Williams back, I think, things are going to start coming around. Bullpen really good. They've been used a lot. That's a concern. And it's been a lot of fun so far watching these young kids develop and watching William Contreras on a daily. William Contreras has played every game since last August. He continues to swing the bat well. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Sorry about the glare on Sunday. I was right below you.
That's right. Yeah, I saw you. Levering was waving at you, and
and then he was doing one of these numbers like, "Hey, Trev, what's up?" Yeah.
Better or worse than the silver chrome bleachers out in center field of County Stadium?
Yeah, kind of the same.
Love you too.
Although
coming on.
I didn't have to hit a baseball with your glare.
It's fair.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Much, Billy. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
it always fascinates me, J.A., when professional athletes can remember pitch by pitch, right? And no hitter, sure. But you watch Tiger Woods and it was like, oh, yeah, back in 2007 on hole 9 in my third shot. How do they do that? It was fun to listen to.
At Colonial, and I was playing with this guy, and he was wearing a red shirt. I asked Aaron Baddeley that one time in Scott Van Pelt and I went out and did a thing that was the start of the Phoenix Open. And I said, what is it about you guys that you can remember that stuff? And he's like, yeah, the first time I broke 70, I was here at this course in Australia, and I was playing with this guy. And I'm like, but that's part of what makes them great is they remember that. And as a catcher, you really have to remember that because, you know, if you see that guy comes to the plate 4 times in a game, and you might see him in 12 games over the course of umpteen years, and you got to, you know, bank all that knowledge that they come through. But yeah, as astounding as the no-hitter recall is from Bill, and I'm not totally shocked, I think it would be more shocking. But like, I bet there's a game in, you know, 85 on a random Wednesday in July, and here it is, and you were facing, you know, the Blue Jays in the old Sky Dome. They weren't Sky Dome. They might have been still at Exhibition Park. But anyway, and he'd probably know just as well and remember just as well all the stuff that went down with that.
And he says it was the best no-hitter to ever catch because it was just a lot of this.
Yeah. Put down the one.
Yeah, that was it. Mm-hmm. Super fun. Was he in the broadcast booth with Jeff Levering when they threw the combined no-hitter? I can't remember.
No, I don't know.
Oh, I should have asked.
I don't know. All I know is that the Astros throw a combined no-hitter every year.
Yeah.
And then
you say that's BS, right? You don't call that a no-hitter. You don't like that.
I think it's called a combined no-hitter, I guess. I just think a no-hitter should be one dude getting everybody out.
But I wonder how many more we're going to see, because to Bill's point, they only pitch 100 pitches now and they're out, right?
You'll see some, you know.
Super fun to chat with him. All right, super fun to also reminisce about your childhood. And I would imagine today's John, Wisconsin may or may not have something to do with. No? All right. Not worth a guess.
No, nothing to do with it. In fact, I'm wondering if I've ever told this before, but this is sort of this at the end is a riddle for you. Okay.
I'm in.
So, but I'm thinking about, I just, went to my son's college graduation. And I was thinking, of course, he didn't have a high school graduation because he was 2020. And I was thinking about my high school graduation and how the year before that, they had the National Honor Society people. They helped bring the class in, the class of 82. And I wasn't in the National Honor Society until my senior year, but in junior year, a couple of us just walked in the back, made it look like we were in anyway. So Shocker. I was thinking about high school, and I thought you and I went to our trip, and then afterwards we went to Al's Hamburgers.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So we used to always go to Al's Hamburger and make the lunch run, but you couldn't get there and get back in time.
Right.
Ever. So we used to come back and we would be late. And we figured after a while, the way to get through that was to bring the period that we came back and we had chorus right after that, the swing choir. Sure. You should hear me. If you need some guys and dolls, I can do that later. But a lot of times what we did is we brought the teacher a burger, and then he was happy. He's like, come on in late. It was fine. And then by the end of the day, he'd see us as we were walking out, because you saw where the choral rooms, the music rooms were, and he'd have heartburn. He'd be like, I hate you guys. You never can do this again. But what used to happen is we'd come in and we'd come in late and we'd come through the hall. And then somebody, invariably, the hall monitor, whoever, would always stop us. And they would always stop me. And I'd bring out, and I had this thing of pink hall passes, like everybody had. And then I'd go, no, look, we're good. And I'd show them the pink hall pass that I had put my name on. I just do it and pink. Oh, very good. Go on your way. So we did this, I don't know, 6 times that this happened. Never got detention. Never got ticketed for me. Never any repercussions ever.
Smooth. Love it.
Smooth. And I'm wondering if you could figure out why that I could sign this pass and show it to the guy and he'd go, you're fine. Go ahead.
I believe I remember this from our tour, and you talked to me about a teacher that his name was John Anderson, right?
And it's because the chorus teacher's name was John Anderson, so I never had to forge anything. I just would, I don't have anything here that I could write it on that you could tell, but it was just, and then he was left-handed, so I'd write it left-handed. And to this day, when I sign banners and stuff, you look like the A and D looks very much. He'd go A and D and then just kind of go underneath it. I kind of scroll it off now, but the A and D, so we went in all the time. And I just basically forged the man's signature, but I didn't really forge his name because we have the same name.
Oh, how times have changed, because I feel like you get expelled for that today. But back then, I was like, all right, guys, go ahead. Enjoy your hamburger.
So there was it. So Mr. Anderson was my chorus teacher. John Anderson at the same time played for the Packers. When I was in seventh grade, 76. Yeah, seventh grade, John Anderson ran for president. And then just around the corner from us down Caters Drive was John Anderson as well, but he spelled it S-E-N. And then everybody just called him Jack. But like, that's how many John Andersons I grew up with all the time. It was crazy. But I was just really lucky enough that one of them, that Mr. Anderson, and then his sons, Steve and Jeff. Jeff was probably one of the best friends I had. Lived catty corner through the backyard. So, but yeah, good old Mr. Anderson got me out of a lot of stuff, and he had no idea.
Didn't you guys eventually bring him lunch back at one point? Like, hey, we'll get you lunch.
So then we'd start bringing him the burger.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And then you'd show up afterwards for musical practice, and you'd be like, God, I hate you guys.
That's right. Okay.
Then we leave the onions off, what have you. But
right.
Anyway.
That's fun.
By the way, I mean, listen, as much as I love Kroll's, as everybody does, and it's an institution, whether you're on the west side across from Lambeau Field or over on the east side by the old spot, Al's Hamburgers where you still need to go. I can't believe you, even though you're a youngster and only 83, that you had never been to Al's Hamburgers on Washington Street.
Driven by a lot, and I'm glad I got to experience it with you for the first time. And maybe someday I'll take you to Wadel's Hamburger Stand in Jefferson, Wisconsin. Shout out to Wadel's.
You need to go to whatever the place you call it is, the Porcupine or whatever.
Pine Cone. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Maybe the Watt brothers will meet us there. Wishful thinking.
That would be fun. We'll do it on we'll do it on location at the Porcupine.
Maybe deeper roots at the Pine Cone with the Watt brothers.
Pine Cone is what I meant to say.
The Pine Cone. Open 24 hours. We have all the time in the world we need.
The Cone.
All right. Thanks to Bill Schroeder from Milwaukee Brewers fame for joining us on today's show. Thanks to UJA for lining up that piece last week with our friend Doug Gottlieb. We wish him the best. And the Brewers, we wish them to keep winning. We're off to a pretty decent start. Yeah. And shout out, by the way. Sorry to my guy Reese Hoskins. A little hammy issue here. But our guy Owen Miller's back up. I just saw that right before last week when he got put on the 10-day. Yeah. So
I feel like that's directly why they swept the Cardinals the first time and won the series the next time. Is he just brought a little sauce to it, and all the boys in the dugout knew that they needed to handle their business right with the guys with the birds on their bat.
Don't you guys hate these guys? I hate these guys.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Just all right, wait, real quick. When is this show debuting? What day will it?
The date?
Yeah,
Thursday the 23rd.
Thursday the 23rd. Okay, then I can tell you that June 28th will be my final show. June 28th, midnight, 11 o'clock Eastern time, Central time.
I'm writing that down.
Metal Sports Center, June 28th. 11 Central, midnight Eastern time. Me and Levy. Butch will be at the draft, but we'll figure out how to incorporate him. There you go. Awesome. That was just established moments ago.
Well, thank you very kindly for letting us share that here on Inside Wisconsin.
Yeah, I feel like that one I shared.
Appreciate that. All right, as you are, Wisconsin. See you next time. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Wait, I didn't even mention Jason Kendall or Jonathan Lucroy. I didn't mention those two guys, right? Carlos Villanueva, nothing. Billy Hall, the original Mother's Day bat guy. Didn't mention him. How about Mike Cameron out in center field? Didn't mention him. Tony Gwynn Jr.
I forgot about him.
Didn't mention him. You understand I'm troubled by this then. So you understand I'm in trouble by this.
Every single person listening and watching the show understands you're troubled by this. Yes, we're aware.
Very good. Thank you. Just want to make sure people know.
We know.
Shut up and sit down.